Okay, imagine this story. You've got immense power, incredible popularity, um, betrayal right at the core, and this really dramatic, violent end.
It sounds like something straight out of Hollywood, doesn't it? A political thriller.
Exactly. A
Yeah.
leader, surrounded by people he trusts, his allies,
Hmm.
and then bam, stabbed. Not just once, but 23 times.
23. It's almost unbelievable. And this isn't fiction. This is the real story, the assassination of Julius Caesar.
Right. And for this deep dive, we've really dug in. We've looked at historical accounts, different analyses, scholarly takes, a whole stack of material.
Yeah, and our goal today is basically to give you a shortcut. Cut through the myths, get to the heart of one of history's biggest betrayals.
We want to pull out the key insights, maybe some surprising details, and connect it all to lessons that honestly still feel relevant now.
Absolutely. Because you'll see this wasn't just about one man's death. This single event fundamentally reshaped Rome. It changed everything.
It really did. Okay, so before we get to the Ides of March itself, let's talk about Caesar. Who was this guy, really?
Good place to start. So, picture Rome. First century BCE. It's not the stable republic you might imagine. It's struggling.
Yeah, lots of internal conflict, political fighting, big gap between rich and poor.
Yeah.
The old system was definitely creaking.
Exactly. And into this walks Gaius Julius Caesar. Now, he wasn't just some general. He was brilliant, a military genius.
His conquest of Gaul, legendary, right? Fast, decisive.
Totally.
Oh.
And he didn't just win battles, he knew how to win people. The common soldiers loved him. The public back in Rome, he had this charisma.
For a while, even parts of the elite were impressed, weren't they?
But what's really key here is that Caesar wasn't, born into the absolute highest tier of power like some others. He worked for it.
Right. It wasn't just inherited status.
No. He built his power base piece by piece. Military victories, yeah, but also political deals, navigating the social scene, and even his writing.
Ah, yes, his commentaries on the Gallic Wars.
Exactly. Commentari de Bello Gallico. It was brilliant self-promotion. He was essentially creating his own brand, building personal loyalty directly with the people, bypassing some of the traditional structures.
Making himself a legend in his own time, basically, long before social media.
Pretty much. Self-made ambition, strategic genius, and this knack for connecting with ordinary Romans.
Okay, but that kind of meteoric rise, that makes people nervous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially established power.
Oh, absolutely. As Caesar got more powerful, more popular, almost godlike in some people's eyes, the Senate got increasingly worried. Freaked out, really.
And their biggest fear was?
The K word. King. They were terrified he wanted to ditch the republic and make himself a monarch.
And you got to remember, Rome had this deep hatred of kings. They'd kicked out their last one centuries before. It was like their founding principle almost, never again.
Exactly. It was the ultimate red line. So what's the takeaway here for us, maybe?
Well, it shows how that kind of massive individual power and popularity can really clash with the existing system, right? That tension is timeless.
Yeah. How do established structures deal with someone who seems to outgrow them? It's a question we still see today in different forms.
Okay, so the tension's building, which leads us to that infamous date.
March 15th, 44 BCE. The Ides of March. It's just burned into history.
So what happened? Caesar just walked into a Senate meeting like any other day.
Pretty much. The accounts suggest he went to the theater of Pompeii, where the Senate was meeting, maybe a bit overconfident, or maybe just didn't see the scale of the plot.
Outwardly, just another day at the office.
Right. But underneath, Rome was like a pressure cooker. The atmosphere must have been electric.
But it wasn't just another day, was it? This was an ambush.
A meticulously planned one. In broad daylight. And the number of conspirators, it's staggering.
Over 60 senators.
Yeah, over 60.
Wow.
His peers, colleagues, some people he probably considered friends, they surround him.
And then the attack. 23 stab wounds.
23. It's just brutal. And the killer blow, or at least the most famous one, involves Brutus.
Marcus Junius Brutus. Someone Caesar trusted, right? Even promoted.
Yeah.
Almost like a son, some sources say.
Exactly. And this is the emotional gut punch of the story. Brutus delivers that final stab.
And Caesar's supposed last words.
Et tu, Brute? You too, Brutus. It's just the ultimate expression of shock, betrayal, heartbreak. Bro, seriously, like you said in the intro.
Wow, that phrase has echoed down through centuries for a reason. captures that feeling perfectly.
It really does. Personal agony, political catastrophe, all in 3 words.
And the crazy part is, the killers didn't run and hide.
No, they genuinely believed they were heroes, saviors of the Republic. They thought, we've killed the tyrant, freedom is restored.
They actually marched out proclaiming liberty, didn't they?
They did, convinced they'd done the right thing, but the dramatic irony is just huge here.
Because it totally backfired.
Massively. So when you think about this betrayal, this violence, what really stands out, that clash between their noble intention and the actual brutal reality.
Yeah, that disconnect is huge. They thought they were restoring order, but...
But they unleashed chaos. The exact opposite of what they intended.
So what happened right after? Did the Republic magically reappear?
Not even close. Instead of democracy returning, Rome just imploded. Total chaos. Power vacuum.
The conspirators didn't really have a plan for afterwards, did they?
Apparently not a very good one. They knew how to kill Caesar, but not how to govern Rome or deal with the public, who, remember, mostly loved Caesar.
So civil war.
Yep. Multiple rounds of it, revenge killings, power struggles breaking out everywhere. Rome essentially became a war zone.
And the end result of all this fighting and chaos?
Well, this is the ultimate irony. The thing they feared most, one-man rule, is exactly what they got. Just not Caesar.
Enter Octavian, Caesar's adopted son.
Right. His grandnephew, actually, but adopted heir. He steps into the chaos, proves incredibly shrewd, ruthless.
Plays the game better than anyone else.
Essentially, yes. Makes alliances, breaks alliances, wins key battles, eliminates rivals, and eventually consolidates all the power.
And becomes Augustus, the first Roman emperor.
The first emperor. So the act designed to save the Republic directly led to its final death and the birth of the Roman Empire.
Wow. Talk about unintended consequences.
It's a monumental miscalculation, isn't it? They killed Caesar to stop autocracy and ended up paving the way for centuries of emperors.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How often actions, even ones you think are for the right reasons, can lead somewhere totally unexpected, often the complete opposite direction.
Exactly. It says a lot about political upheaval, the limits of planning, and maybe just human nature under pressure. The road to hell, paved with good intentions, as they say.
So we've covered his rise, the shocking betrayal, the chaotic aftermath. But what can we actually learn from this, sitting here over 2,000 years later?
Yeah. What are the big takeaways that still matter?
What does this ancient story tell us about, well, us today?
Okay, I think there are a few really solid lessons here. First, pretty clearly, power without accountability breeds fear.
Caesar's power just kept growing, unchecked, and the Senate got scared.
Right. Whether he truly intended to be king or not almost doesn't matter. The perception of his unchecked power, his ambition, drove them to an extreme, violent reaction. Their fear became existential.
That pattern feels familiar. Leaders getting too insulated, too powerful. It can lead to desperate measures from those feeling threatened.
Exactly. Second lesson, betrayal doesn't always fix the problem, often makes it worse.
Yeah, killing Caesar didn't restore the Republic. Not even close.
It just led to more instability, more war, and ultimately the very autocracy they were trying to prevent, just under a different guy, Augustus. Violent solutions rarely solve the root issue.
They often just create new, sometimes worse problems.
And a third one, which is maybe a bit more subtle. If you silence voices with violence, you lose control of the narrative.
How do you mean?
Well, the conspirators thought their act would be seen as heroic liberation, but the violence itself undermined that. It made them look like assassins, not saviors, to many people.
And it opened the door for others, like Octavian, to step in and shape the story, define the legacy.
Precisely. They lost control of how the event was remembered and what came next. Violence gave them temporary power, but cost them moral authority and narrative control.
That connects to something else that jumped out in the need to really listen to people around you. Your team.
Yeah, that analogy from the source material is so vivid.
If people are carrying knives to your meetings, you've already lost them.
Exactly. It sounds maybe a bit flippant, but the point is serious. It suggests Caesar, despite his brilliance, maybe missed the depth of the resentment, the fear among some key senators.
He became disconnected, failed to read the room in a really high-stakes way.
Possibly. Or maybe he just underestimated it. But it highlights that even the most powerful leaders need to understand the undercurrents, the grievances, before they erupt.
It's a timeless leadership lesson, really. Don't ignore the whispers.
Absolutely. And that's why Caesar's story sticks with us. It's ambition, loyalty, betrayal. But it's also about the fallibility of power, the danger of not listening, not understanding the forces swirling around you.
So, thinking about all this, these patterns of power, how betrayal plays out, those unintended consequences, you start to see echoes, don't you?
Definitely. Not just in big historical events, but maybe even in workplaces, communities, anywhere people interact with power and ambition.
Right. It's about recognizing these dynamics are still very much alive. So there you have it. Caesar's incredible rise, his brutal end, and how one act of violence reshaped the world. We hope this deep dive gave you a clearer picture of the facts, the drama, and the lessons.
And maybe one last thing to chew on. If those conspirators, Brutus and the others, if they could have seen the future, seen Augustus, seen the empire,
Seen the Republic die because of what they did.
yeah, would they still have gone through with it? What does that tell us about the blind spots in our own plans, even the ones we think are for the best?
A lot to think about. We really encourage you to keep digging into history. It's not just dates. It's full of this stuff. Human drama, powerful lessons.
Keep questioning, keep exploring.
Join us next time for another deep dive.